Hi, I'm Cheryl. You'll be just amazed at how quickly this beautiful fall motif card goes together. A nice watercolor effect going here, and I have a custom background, and let's get into it. So you'll need a piece of Crumb Cake cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. A piece of hot press watercolor paper. Hot press means that it's smooth. If you prefer the texture, then by all means use cold press, but I prefer the hot press smooth paper. It's much easier to stamp on. And we also have, and that's 4 3/4 by 3.5. And then a piece of early Espresso cardstock, and this is 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to keep my watercolor paper out because we'll be using that right off when we get started. I used the Painted Harvest stamp set. Used the big background, or the big base of the sunflower, and then the sunflower a little bit more detailed petals, and the center. I also used I Am Thankful for You. That's on the inside of the card, which I didn't show you. And then Gather Together and Give Thanks. That'll be stamped on the outside. I used crushed curry, early espresso, and pumpkin pie inks. Those are all Stampin Up classic Stampin' pads. I didn't use Tombow glue. I don't know why I have that. I used Snail Adhesive. And for a little extra something on my card, I used the Wink of Stella. And this is the one that looks kind of goldish. I'm not sure what they call that, but I used Wink of Stella. And not one of the color ones. They come in all different colors. Okay. Let's get this watercolor paper out here. And I want my big backgrounds, or the base stamp for the sunflower, and my crushed curry ink pad. I just inked this up, so let's see how that is. I hope I didn't make it too wet. And I'm going to use this is just like a piece of fun foam underneath, just so I get a little bit better impression. So I'm going to stamp one of these up in the corner here, going off the paper a little bit. Ooh, got a hair on there. And it didn't stamp real well down this one side, but that's okay. Wait till you see. Everything will be fine. And another one, and I'm overlapping it a bit. And one more down here. And these all overlap a bit, and that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable for the card. But it doesn't look like much yet, does it? Here's what it looks like so far. I'm going to peel that off. And I'll use the little bit more detailed stamp next, and that I'll use pumpkin pie to stamp with it. Make sure that's inked up real well, and I'm just trying to line the center up. And you might be wondering why we're using watercolor paper. And it's because we're going to spritz this in just a moment with a little water. But all of my Stampin Spritzers have some ink and water mixtures in them right now, so I'm going to use my stamp cleaner, which my stamp cleaner is just I just reused this Method all-purpose cleaner bottle, and it's got just a couple drops of glycerin and a couple drops of Castile soap in it, so it's almost basically water. And I'm just going to spritz. I'm going to try to avoid the centers. Don't want to get too much in the centers, because we're going to go back now, and we're going to stamp the centers with the early espresso. And take a paper towel. Now that the colors have had some time to move around on here, and take my paper towel, I'm just going to blot off all these puddles. And I can actually, because there's some color in my paper towel, in the areas where it didn't run and bleed, I can I'll dab a little bit there and get a look, just a touch of color on the background. You probably can't even see it in the video, but it's just a very light bit of yellow here. I wanted to get most of that water off of there. Let's see, I'll want to use that, I think. I was going to take the pad away, but anyway. Now we can stamp the centers. I'm using the early espresso, and I'm holding my paper down like this because it's bowed up a bit. Watercolor paper, though, is nice because as it dries, it will relax and straighten out quite a bit. Not totally, but it'll get pretty flat all on its own. Okay, so now we have our centers on our sunflowers, and this is where, when we do our little background, and this is kind of a fun thing. I discovered this by accident on my first try at this. I accidentally got a bit of this early espresso. I had it on the edge of my stamp here, and it accidentally touched the paper. And after I cussed for a little while, then I looked closely at it, and I thought, that makes a kind of that could be an interesting background. So we're going to do it on purpose. And this is what we're going to do. I'm just taking the edge of my stamp pad and just lightly touching the stamping block, but I'm just lightly touching my stamp pad. And it's going to make these cool little lines on my paper. Okay, so I have them going. Let me hold this up closer. Have them going on a diagonal that way. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go the opposite direction. So it's like a little crosshatch pattern. And just tapping them on. And there we go. Pretty slick, huh? And very easy to do. Matter of fact, you can do it without even meaning to, like I did. Okay, so now I'll stamp the little sentiment for the front here. And that I'm using the early espresso for, too, that I just put away. I'm being just a little bit too neat here. I'll ink that up. Make sure I got that nice and inked. And that's the one that says gather together and give thanks. And I'm going to put it just across the bottom here. And hopefully I get a nice impression on that, and I did. So very pretty. And we're ready to start. Oh, no, one more thing we have to do since we're playing with the ink. And once again, I closed up my early espresso. It's all ready to put it away, but I wanted to stamp on the inside. I am thankful for you. And this is one of those, the font on this sentiment is so lovely. And if you don't get it real straight, it kind of hides that you went a little crooked with it. Just the way the letters are on it. Okay, so now we're ready. We have that stamped. We're ready to assemble our card. Got my Snail Adhesive. I put a good amount of that across the edges here and right across the back. Place that on my early espresso cardstock. And you're probably thinking, boy, she didn't even let that dry. Well, no, I don't really have to. How about that? You can if you like. And we'll do the same on the back of the early espresso and center that on the front of our Crumb Cake card base. And look at that. All finished. What did it take me? Like 10 minutes to do this? It's wonderful. And you can send this out to all your friends on a Thanksgiving card. And they'll just be amazed how great of an artist you are. So if there's any products you'd like to purchase from Stampin Up that I've used today, you can do that either through my Facebook page or my website. All the materials that I use will be listed down below, as I always do. And I just wanted to say to all my subscribers, I am thankful for you. So y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stamping.